This guy has been such a gloomy person since high school. He comes from a single-parent family. So he didn't go to college and only has a high school diploma. Isn't that kind of problematic nowadays? He says he works in the food industry. But it's just a ramen shop. Who's he trying to impress? A classmate who always looks down on me at these mixers where I was invited as a draw. I sighed inwardly, thinking, here we go again. But when one of the employees recognized me and revealed my true identity, the beautiful models at the mixer flocked to me. I'm Mike. After graduating high school, I started working in an old-fashioned ramen shop nearby and have been working there ever since. At the time, my mom encouraged me to go to college. But I brushed it off, saying, I have something I want to do. Coming from a single-parent family, I knew we didn't have the financial means for college. The ramen shop was a part-time job I stumbled upon, but the owner and employees were great, making it a fun place to work. Of course, I was proud of the ramen shop, but when asked about my job, I would simply say I worked in the food industry. Because I've been there for a long time and hold various positions, it's easier to summarize it that way. Most people are satisfied with that answer, but one guy would always mock me. That guy was James, a classmate from high school. I wasn't particularly close with James. In fact, we barely interacted. James dyed his hair bright colors, wore his uniform sloppily, and often got reprimanded by teachers. He was outgoing, but it felt more like he was overly familiar. Even though he had a girlfriend, he openly talked about hanging out with other girls and hitting on other people's partners. He was notorious for his womanizing, often making girls from other schools wait for him or walking around town with different girls every time. We were in the same class once, but I can count on one hand the number of conversations we had. I didn't even have his contact info, but one day, I ran into James at a trendy bar. Hey, are you Mike? At first, I was startled by the unknown guy suddenly talking to me. The guy who spoke to me was decked out in designer brands and had a well-tanned, fit body. I was confused, not recognizing him at first. What, you don't remember? It's me, James. James grinned at me. It was then that I finally remembered this overly familiar classmate. You're Mike, right? Wow, you haven't changed at all, hilarious. He kept slapping my shoulder as if he found something amusing. James went to a top university after high school and now works at a major advertising agency. He proudly shared that he was at the bar for a mixer with cute girls. Apparently, he's still living a flashy lifestyle. Mike, what are you doing here? I'm here for work. Really? So, what are you doing now? I work in the food industry. I answered as usual. Then, James burst out laughing. You're still working at that ramen shop? I was a bit annoyed by his sudden laughter, but arguing with him seemed pointless. James had always belittled me. I replied, yeah, that's right. Then James laughed even harder and said, seriously? Didn't you skip college? Still just working at the ramen shop? That's hilarious, man. An adult working at a ramen shop. That's too funny. No, it's not just the ramen shop. I was getting annoyed by his excessive laughter and tried to correct him. But he cut me off with, it's fine, it's fine. Don't bother saying you work in the food industry just to show off. Man, I haven't laughed this hard in a while. As James wiped tears from the corners of his eyes, I no longer had the energy to correct him. Just as I was thinking of leaving, James suddenly pulled out his phone from his pocket. Give me your contact info. I have tons of money now, so I'll treat you to some great food sometime. His mocking tone made me a bit annoyed. Not really. I can invite lots of cute girls too, come on. The screen on his phone showed pictures of him dining at a restaurant. He was posing with unknown women in front of delicious-looking dishes. Like this girl, or this one. Isn't it great to eat good food with cute girls? The dishes in the photos looked delicious. Honestly, I wasn't interested in meeting women, but the restaurants he frequented were well-known and places I had wanted to try, so I was tempted. James seemed to know many good places, even ones I hadn't heard of. As someone working in the food industry, visiting different types of restaurants is educational. So let's go eat sometime. It was clear that James intended to use me as a backup at these mixers. If he wanted to use me, I might as well take advantage of him too. I said, if our schedules match, and exchanged contact information with him. After that, I often got invited to mixers. James seemed to be quite the socialite, hosting mixers almost every week. Not only were the girls different each time, but the venue was rarely the same. I was impressed by his research skills, though it was all for the sake of mixers. And tonight, James was hosting another mixer. Given how many times he had emphasized, "I've gathered beautiful models, you have to come," it was clear he really wanted to get close to them. Mocking me to highlight his own success and wealth was James's usual tactic. Of course, it annoyed me, but it wasn't worth engaging with him seriously. I wasn't interested in models, but since tonight's venue was a place I wanted to check out, I reluctantly agreed to go. Tonight's mixer was at a stylish restaurant known for its fusion French cuisine. We were supposed to meet at the entrance. The first thing James said was, "I'm aiming for Mia tonight. I'm betting everything on tonight. I'm seriously going to win Mia over, so don't get in my way." He glared at me sharply, but I had no idea who Mia was. That's why I splurged on this high-end restaurant. "Mike, I invited you, so read the room." Even if I told him I was only interested in the restaurant and the food, he wouldn't believe me. I nodded non-committally, and James got all excited by himself. "Mia has 1 million followers as an influencer, and she's super cute. Plus, she's got a great body. I've got to get her." I was too speechless to respond to James, who was drooling over her. As the start time approached, I managed to cut the conversation short, and we headed inside the restaurant. In the private room we were shown to, 3 women were already waiting. As models, they were indeed all very beautiful. "Sorry to keep you waiting," James laughed. "Nice to meet you." The most beautiful woman smiled and greeted us. I found out her name was Mia during the introductions, and it was clear why James was so eager to win her over. With James's practice lead, we toasted and the mixer began. After the introductions, James launched into his usual bragging. As usual, I took pictures of the food and made notes about it. This guy just keeps taking pictures of the food, he's such a nerd. "Sorry about that," James said, feigning an apology, and then started his usual routine of putting me down. Ignoring him, I continued to taste the dishes and jot down my impressions. When addressed, I would answer, but for the most part, time passed with James talking to the women. "So, isn't this place super popular? How did you get a reservation?" When Mia said that, James eagerly leaned forward. "Actually, I know the owner here. Keep it a secret." James lowered his voice dramatically. "Wow, that's amazing." The women responded with exaggerated admiration. Feeling pleased with himself, James continued to talk about knowing the owner. For someone who claimed it was a secret, he sure was blabbing a lot. As I was internally sighing, I suddenly heard, "Hey, Mike," and looked up. Somehow, Mia had moved and was now sitting right in front of me. "Have we met somewhere before?" "Ha!" The way she said it felt like a pickup line, making my heart skip a beat. Even though I knew it wasn't, it was still nerve-wracking to hear from such a beautiful woman. "You look familiar, Mike." I don't think so. If I had met someone as beautiful as her, I wouldn't have forgotten." Just as I was about to say it must be a mistake, James interrupted with a loud, "No way. He's not distinctive at all, so you probably just see faces like his everywhere." James laughed uproariously. "And someone as plain as him would never cross paths with someone like you, Mia." While his words were technically true, they were so blatantly condescending that even the women seemed a bit taken aback. Trying to boost his own status, he was lowering it instead. And he didn't even realize it, which was pathetic. Then James started another round of his boring bragging. "Recently, I worked with a celebrity." James continued to boast proudly. They are excitedly talking about actors and comedians we often hear on TV, saying I'll introduce you to them sometime. Since it didn't concern me, I focused on taking photos of the new dishes and jotting down my thoughts. Then Mia spoke to me again. "Mike, are you on social media?" "No, not really." I tilted my head at the seemingly random question, so she added, "I noticed you were taking lots of pictures." She said she wondered if I was going to upload them online, and it finally made sense to me. "Oh, no. I work in the food industry. As soon as I said that, I saw James smirk. Don't try to show off. It's just a ramen shop. The women, who had been enjoying themselves, suddenly looked at me in surprise. Their faces seemed to say, I can't believe it. This guy has been such a gloomy person since high school. He didn't go to college because he's from a single-parent family and only has a high school diploma. Isn't that problematic these days? And he's been working at a ramen shop since he started as a part-timer. Even now, at almost 30, he's still working there. It's so lame for an adult to be working at a ramen shop. No wonder he tries to make it sound better by saying food industry. I wanted to say it wasn't about showing off, but James kept going. I'm actually the type who only treats girls, but since Mike is poor, I make an exception for him. Not to brag, but I'm pretty rich. Treating someone like him is nothing to me. After all, as an elite, I have to show some charity to the poor. Isn't it super nice of me to treat him? The women responded with forced smiles. They were clearly put off, but James, perhaps because he was drunk, didn't notice. He was happily drinking while putting me down. In his mind, he probably thought he was boosting his own reputation. Just as I was about to sigh, Mia spoke up. Maybe I should upload this to social media too, she said brightly, trying to change the awkward atmosphere. She took out her phone and snapped a photo of the untouched food. As if on cue, the other women began taking pictures of their meals as well. Mia took a few shots before elegantly bringing a bite of food to her mouth. Delicious. She smiled after the first bite. But it could be a bit more colorful. I couldn't help but react to her casual comment. What do you mean? Despite my eager question, Mia gave me a kind smile. These days, dishes that look good in photos are more popular. Of course, the taste is important, but vibrant colors really catch the eye. So, a bit of green here would be perfect. She pointed to a part of the plate. I see. The appearance really does matter. I thought I had been mindful of that, but I hadn't considered the idea of making it photogenic. And changing up the garnish or the sauce color can really make a difference. I see, the garnish. You might also want to think about the plates you use. Mia continued giving me detailed advice I wouldn't have thought of on my own. As I was jotting down notes, James slammed his glass on the table, clearly displeased with me talking to Mia. Mike, read the room. You're just a ramen shop worker, acting like you know about cuisine? Colorfulness doesn't matter for ramen. The tension in the room spiked at James's irritated tone. Mike, you're ruining the meal. Just leave already. What? I'd never been openly criticized for taking photos and notes before. James glared at me, clicking his tongue in annoyance. Just go. Can't you see you're killing the vibe? I swallowed my retort that James was the one ruining the mood. I replied, but we're still in the middle of the course. I wanted to hear more of Mia's advice, but James seemed determined to kick me out. Shut up, you poor loser. This place isn't meant for people like you. Just get out. You're ruining the food. He waved his hand dismissively, and the atmosphere turned cold. Staying any longer would only make things worse. Though I was getting good advice, I had no choice but to leave. I decided to come back alone another time, picked up my stuff, and stood up. Ha! Go home and make some ramen, you poor loser. James laughed as I headed for the door, just as the next course was being served. The waiter holding the tray looked at me. Mr. Thompson, are you leaving? He addressed me. Before I could answer, James's foolish voice echoed in the quiet room. Mr. Thompson? What? Mr. Thompson? Did I hear that right? Am I drunk? James laughed. You must be mistaken, buddy. This guy's just a ramen shop worker. The waiter looked puzzled. Excuse me, but aren't you Mr. Thompson of Thompson International? Yes, that's right. I nodded. What? James shouted. The owner would like to greet you before you leave. Could you wait a moment? The waiter asked politely, and I nodded again. The reason I became known as Mr. Thompson was due to a particular encounter. After working at the ramen shop for a few years, a foreigner came in one day. His name was William, and he was so impressed with our ramen that he kept saying how delicious it was. He then suggested that if we took this flavor to the United States, it would definitely be a hit, and asked if we would join him. The owner, who was over 60, declined, saying it was impossible. But William was determined and started coming to our shop every day. Despite their ongoing standoff, William's enthusiasm never waned. Over time, I started talking to him in simple English. Looking back, my English was embarrassingly poor. Even so, William never laughed at me. He would speak in broken Japanese and use gestures to engage in serious conversations with me. Talking with William made me dream bigger, and for the first time, I found something I truly wanted to do. Until then, I had no ambitions, and had resigned myself to a mundane life. Wanting to change that, I begged the owner to let me take the ramen to America. At first, he told me not to, but after many requests, he finally agreed. That marked the beginning of my busy days. I trained to perfectly recreate the ramen flavor and spent my spare time studying English. I lived frugally to save money for the business and made several trips to America for research. It took several years from the time I decided to do it, but I finally managed to open our first store in America. Despite various troubles, through trial and error, we steadily grew our sales and became a popular spot, always full. Thanks to that, we were featured in famous magazines and online and even got covered by Japanese media. Isn't Thompson International the company that runs that hugely popular ramen shop in America? Mia asked, as if she had just remembered. Yes, that's right. You're well informed. I've been to the Hawaii location. I remember being surprised that the owner was Japanese because I saw a photo there. That's why you looked familiar. Mia smiled warmly. That must have been from a forced photo shoot during a visit. I'm not fond of pictures, but I couldn't refuse their insistence. I never expected it to be displayed at the store, and the thought made me blush. So, is this restaurant today also yours, Mike? Yes, sort of. After succeeding with the ramen shops in America, I returned to Japan. I then expanded into bars and restaurants. The place we're at today is a creative restaurant targeting high-end clientele. I came to check the food, ambience, and service quality. However, my review was cut short by James's outburst. While I was pondering this, the owner, Kane, approached us. A tall, handsome man with shining platinum blonde hair. Kane was a talented individual introduced to me by William, who helped with the ramen shop. He manages most of the high-end restaurants I planned. Since his Japanese isn't perfect, we always converse in English. From behind, I heard women exclaiming, "Wow, they're speaking English." Amazing. After a brief update and casual greeting, Kane asked, "Are you leaving already?" With James kicking me out and Kane being busy, I thought it was best not to stay longer. When I confirmed my intention to leave, voices of surprise rose from behind. "What? Mike, let's talk more." "Yeah, I barely got to talk to you." Suddenly, two women grabbed my arms and pulled me back to my seat. They had seemed uninterested in me until they realized I knew Kane. Amused by their sudden change of attitude, I decided to be upfront with them to avoid giving false hope. "I'm sorry, but Kane is already married, so I can't introduce you to him." I intended to say, but the two women cheerfully replied that they already knew that. Apparently, they had quickly noticed the ring shining on Kane's ring finger. "We want to talk to you, Mike." "What? Me?" Suddenly, I found myself bombarded with questions from the two women. Since I wasn't attending the party to find a girlfriend, I was overwhelmed by their enthusiasm. In the midst of their questioning, James tried to talk to the women, but they brushed him off. "Oh, really? Interesting." Eventually, James gave up trying to talk. While deflecting their barrage of questions, I continued jotting down notes on the dishes being served. When the main course arrived, Mia, who had mostly been observing, suddenly spoke up. "Can I take a picture?" Her bright smile made my heart race, as I wasn't used to such attention from a beautiful woman. Mia had mentioned she was an influencer, so she probably posted food pictures online. Having Mia promote our restaurant could be beneficial. Sure. I'm not very good at it though. Please hand me your phone." I held out my hand, and Mia looked momentarily surprised before letting out a small laugh. "I meant a picture with you, not just the food." Ha! I realized my mistake and felt embarrassed at the unexpected request for a selfie. Is that okay? Though I disliked being photographed, I couldn't refuse Mia's request. When I agreed, Mia moved to sit next to me. I assumed she would ask someone else to take the picture, but instead, she prepared the front camera on her phone. To capture both the food and us in the shot, she had to sit very close. She pressed the shutter, and the small screen displayed Mia's beautiful smile and my tense, awkward grin. Despite my discomfort with photos, I couldn't refuse when Mia asked, "Can I post this on social media?" "Hey, Mia, take a picture with me too." James pushed in from the side, trying to get in the shot. I remembered he had initially expressed interest in Mia. I started to move aside, but Mia stopped me by addressing James. "Sorry, but I don't like people who belittle others and constantly boast. So I'll pass on taking a photo with you, James." What? Even James, with his usual brashness, couldn't push forward after being outright rejected. He slumped his shoulders and glared at me with a mixture of resentment and frustration. "How did you become the president, Mike?" James seemed more sulky than angry at me. We both had used others for our own benefit, but his failure was his own doing. "It's thanks to you, James." He furrowed his brow in confusion. "I had always resigned myself to a mundane life, but being mocked by you pushed me to prove myself. Even when things were tough in America, I worked hard to show everyone what I could do. In a way, I owe it to you." "Shut up," James muttered sulkily. "You've always been smart and capable. You don't need to push others down, and you can aim higher on your own." Hearing that from a winner like you just sounds like mockery. Damn it. "Just watch, I'll make it big too." James took a swig of his drink in frustration. The awkward tension from earlier had dissipated, and for the first time, the dinner felt enjoyable. Since that day, Mia and I kept in touch frequently. Her advice was precise and extremely helpful. Before long, Mia and I were not just exchanging messages but also dining together more frequently. James, unable to give up on Mia, would occasionally reach out to her but often complained about not receiving a reply. When I casually asked Mia about it, she responded with a dazzling smile. His intentions were too obvious, and it scared me, so I blocked him. Her beautiful smile was almost terrifying, and I could only manage a dry laugh. As a model, Mia was naturally attuned to trends and had excellent taste. Using her advice, I improved the dishes at my restaurants, which quickly became popular among young people. Mia, being an influencer, would post photos of the restaurants she liked, and whenever she shared about my restaurants, they became so popular that reservations were hard to get. Though our relationship began through work, Mia and I had become partners in our personal lives as well. We supported and sometimes scolded each other, building a strong relationship. I used to think someone like me can't achieve much. Being mocked hurt, but deep down, I might have believed that I deserved to be looked down upon. However, wanting to prove those who belittled me wrong is what brought me to where I am now. I learned that instead of dwelling on my frustrations, it's essential to turn every situation into an opportunity. I can never express enough gratitude for meeting such wonderful people. I want to continue living my life with gratitude and always look forward.